Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGA9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you every week. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. As always, Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Doing well. Hey, it was a win. So, we got to be doing well, right?
Pat's talking about the victory over NAU. Arizona football improves to 1-0 in the season. Pat, there's no such thing as preseason football, but when you play an FCS team and you're a normal Arizona team, not like the one a couple years ago, this is as close to a preseason game as you would expect. And you would want them to win in a score like 38-3 and have those fourth down stops and dominate the other team on both lines of scrimmage. So certainly there's a lot that we could talk about that wasn't right, and we'll get to that. But first off, if you said before the game they're going to win 38-3, you're going to take that.
Yeah.
But you did have a situation where it was 14-3 in the third quarter, and the game was still in play before the blocked field goal really changed the game.
Yeah. It was funny. During pregame, I was at a tailgate, and Tommy Lloyd was talking to the one tailgate next to ours. It was in the practice facility there, and Tommy Lloyd got up and he said, 2 years, it's hard to believe time flies. 2 years ago, I was in front of you. You were welcoming me as the new Arizona basketball coach, and it was the NAU game, and everyone went, oh. And so he's talking again to the crowd 2 years later, and it's like we're playing NAU, uh-oh. And there was a little bit of that sense as we look at some of the highlights, Jason. Not that would happen again, but, it happened once. You want to have a game where there's no doubt that Arizona is the better team. There's no doubt that Arizona is going to win. There's no doubt that they're going to roll to a victory. And it took a while. It just took a little while. And in the end, 38-3, everything was good. But you mentioned it. Imagine, if you will, they don't block that field goal, and instead NAU kicks the field goal. Now it's 14-6, and you don't know what's going to happen. You get the sense that Arizona was still going to win that game, but I don't know. It wouldn't have looked like 38-3, that's for sure.
They weren't passing the eye test.
That's what you texted me at halftime, and I agreed.
They weren't passing the eye test at first, and then they took control of the game, which you want to see. So, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But if they play like that this week at Mississippi State, they're not going to be they're not going to come out with a win. So, I guess the first thing you could point to are the turnovers. I actually give them the benefit of the doubt with that as well. When Fish said they've been playing against themselves and they were just trying to take it out on somebody else, that's fine. The offensive numbers look really good, but a lot of those plays were, running back out of the backfields. I think a little lack of explosiveness on offense, not necessarily the numbers, but just the eye test kind of caught me a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll say this, Jason, how we're measuring this, what Arizona football looks like right now, is completely different than what we use the lens we looked through 2 years ago. And even the lens we looked through last year where we saw the improvement. Now we're expecting even more improvement. We're expecting them to blow out NAU. We expect them to be competitive against Mississippi State. We expect them to blow out UTEP, and on and on and on and on. So you have to start with that baseline. Yes, our expectation level is certainly higher than it was last year at this time, and way higher than 2 years ago. Having said that, there's some things you can be critical of. The Jaden Delora fumble, that whole play where he just stood in the pocket forever, and he should have taken off running a lot sooner than that.
McMillan was held on that play, and they didn't call it, but go ahead.
Yep, that's fine. Sometimes they call them, sometimes they don't. The issue is you got to play with a little bit more, smarts at quarterback. A couple of things he did, you see some improvement, and you see some areas where you go, you're having that same problem. You're not recognizing when you can run, and they're going to face big, tough defenses now starting this week, where he's going to have to make decisions that quick. It can't be, oh, look how comfortable I am in the pocket because I'm not getting any pressure. He's not going to have that time likely this coming week. So Jaden Delore's going to have to make some decisions a little more quickly. The defense really played well in the second half. They played fine in the first half, kind of the bend but don't break mentality in the first half. They really played well. And special teams, a little bit of a mixed bag, but you cannot fault special teams that blocks a field goal, runs it back for a touchdown, and completely changes the complexion of that game and takes Northern Arizona's whatever energy they had coming out of halftime. It sucked the win right out of their sails.
They've had several block kicks under Fish, and for a team that doesn't have a designated special teams coach, Coach Pow Pow, who's the tight ends coach, handles special teams. That's impressive compared to what they've had, the last two regimes before that. So that is a good job for Arizona blocking those kicks. You look at Mississippi State this week. Now, obviously, they've got a new coach after Mike Leach passed away in the offseason.
Yeah, what a shame too.
Defense with that 3-3-5, I think they play. The defense is similar. The offense isn't the air raid that it was last year, at least what it was this past week. So they're facing a little bit of a different offense. But this was a game, Pat, that Jaden Delore, you call it the Arizona Early Avenge Tour, because they beat NAU after losing them 2 years ago. Now they play Mississippi State after losing to them last year. This was a bad game for Delore last year at home. He took a bad sack and had 3 interceptions. As you say, he's going to have to play a lot better this week on the road for them to win.
He will, and there's that stigma that you're battling against too, is just how bad the Wildcats have been over the years against SEC teams. 6-1 all time against the SEC. 6-1 on the road. So you gotta overcome that. Is this a case where they can win the game? Sure they can. We're not saying doom and gloom. They don't have a chance, on and on and on. Jason, they didn't show everything they had in their bag of tricks and their play calling, both offensively and defensively, against NAU. There's still much more to come with that offense and with some of the schemes they're running on defense. And I love how on defense Arizona's changing out that defensive front quite often. They've got 4 or 5 guys in a rotation there, and I think that will help them a lot against a team like Mississippi State. But then again, I think Mississippi State probably didn't show all they had in their first week either. So I really think this game could be very competitive. And this is one of those where I think I had a loss. I'm assuming you had it as a loss. You were saying 7-5. I was saying 6-6. But this is one where we both said as well, they may win a game we think they're going to lose. They may lose a game we think they're going to win. Maybe this is one of those games where, they're an underdog. Most people wouldn't pick them, but maybe this is one where they can find a way.
Well, I was at 7-5. I might be down to 6-6 after what I saw from Colorado. I wasn't going to transition to the Buffaloes this soon, but why not? We can have a little fun. Maybe if there's time to go back to Arizona. Pat, I tell you what, I'd never been looking forward more to a non-Arizona football game over the past however many years, in a long time, than I was for this Colorado TCU game. Because look, you don't know what's going to happen with Coach Prime, a completely new team. And my gosh, was I impressed. And he is a hell of a coach. And they have 2 of the best college football players I've seen in a long time, with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And people were acting like, Shedeur Sanders is he's just Deion's son, and that's why he gave him the job. People haven't done their homework. This is the other way around. This is a quarterback who turned down Florida State to go to Jackson State to be with his dad. Yep. They're like, what is it called in poker or in pool? When they're hustling, he was hustling. He was hustling. This guy is phenomenal quarterback.
He's very good.
The decision making, the poise, the accuracy, how even keel he is, how he keeps the line energized. This guy is a phenomenal quarterback, and this team far exceeded my expectations, of what they could do against a top tier team on the road with a completely new team. Hats off to Coach Prime. I can't wait to see them play Nebraska this year. Your thoughts on Colorado?
I was impressed. There's no doubt they surprised me in a lot of respects. That offense was such high caliber. What also surprised me was how bad TCU was. I don't think they're very good. They only had 3 returners on offense, a couple more on defense, but
it was like they were still shaken from that Georgia game.
Yeah, it was not the team that made it to the championship game and then got their tails handed to them in the championship game by Georgia. That team last year was they had some incredible record in one score games, and then they get in this 1-score game and they lose. I think the fortunes of TCU turn. I'm not trying to diminish what Colorado did. I promise you. I look forward to what they do in the coming weeks.
Right, we can't make too much of one game.
Exactly. And Nebraska, is not very good either. Nebraska's in a rebuilding. I think we're going to find out. They go Nebraska, then they go Colorado State. This is what Colorado has. Both of those are at home. So Prime's probably going to be 3-0. But then
what's the game after Colorado?
Then they go to Oregon. Then they come home to play USC. We'll know a lot by November 23rd and November 30th than we do right now. We don't know a lot right now. We just know they can put up points. But are they going to be able to put up points when they face an Oregon or a USC? And
Shedeur gets the ball out quickly, Pat.
He might, but his
I
guy's going to be open.
Quarterback idol is Brady, and he gets the ball out.
Yeah, but guys have to be open. Guys have to be open. That you can get the ball out fast, but if a guy's covered, you might throw an interception. So we'll see. I was a little surprised at how well that worked so quickly. Am I on board with Prime? Am I one of those guys he's going to call out in the press conference? I might be one of the guys he calls out in the press conference because it's one game, but I was very impressed with the one game.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Something else he does, Pat, is, and I've thought about this for a long time, but I couldn't come up with the words or whatever. He doesn't have captains. Instead, he's got leaders and dogs. So you see a guy on the team, instead of a C on the jersey, it's either an L. So Shedeur Sanders has an L, he's a leader. Travis Hunter has a D, he's a dog. And I didn't hear him say how he defined each one. But the definition that I would think would be a dog would be somebody who's going out and hunting and making the big plays. And that's why Travis Hunter has a D. But what hit home with me so much is really we should have had some version of that all along. Because if you think about, let's call it a hockey team, you've got a hockey player, and let's say he scores 50 goals in a season, but maybe he's a little moody, maybe he's not your ideal leader type, but he's the best player on the team. Well, do you make him the captain because he's the best player on the team and he's got a good work ethic? But what if he's not really a captain because he's not really those are the leadership skills? That guy should be a dog, whereas you could have a leader who's maybe a guy who, does all the right things, but maybe he doesn't make explosive plays or anything like that. And it's more lead by example. They're almost two different types of those type of roles. So I thought that was like a blow my mind type of moment when he had his leaders and his dogs. I had a lot of fun with that, obviously.
Yeah, and I think most coaches, that's why you have 4 or 5 captains, right, on teams. Sometimes they have even more than 4 or 5 captains on a team.
Sometimes they've got honorary captains.
Yeah, but as far as the guys that are wearing the C on their jerseys, it takes all kinds, as you mentioned. There are leaders, there are dogs that all make up captainship. But I think what's unique is there's the L for leader, and I think what Deion is doing is he makes it fun. Everything to him is fun, but uplifting at the same time.
It should be. This is big business, right? Yeah. But it's also a sport. And that's what kind of the criticism of the Sean Miller teams is nobody looked like they're having any fun.
No. And we weren't having a lot of fun either. We should have been. So, and I think again, you got kudos to Deion Sanders for coming up with this idea. And maybe you and I have thought about it in the same sense as when you got 5 captains, you got some leaders and you got some dogs, but he put labels on it with the L and the D that make these guys I want to wear the D. I want to wear the L, That's what
almost like the number 1 uniform at Arizona last year, a couple years ago, and a couple guys wanted it and they had to kind of have a little competition or something like that. So leader of the team, leader of the team.
Yeah. So what do you consider yourself, Jason, an L or a D?
I'm more of a dog. Like I want to go out and get the big story. I think I can be a leader too, but I see myself a little bit more as a dog than a leader. And you?
I would probably say more of a leader. Not that I can't be tenacious and a dog occasionally, but I think I'm more of a leader, and that's just somebody who, gets the job done. And maybe I lead by example more than anything, but I think I'm a leader.
And I think you could put both on Shedeur. Obviously he's a leader,
right?
But he's making big plays too. Those passes just on the money, one after another. Some of those deep balls.
He's impressive. Hunter's impressive too, but Hunter had some drops on offense too.
Yes.
But the fact that he's a prime time 2.0 kind of player that plays both ways. I mean, it's very impressive. Anybody who can play at a major college level, playing defensive back and playing wide receiver. I mean, That's amazing stuff,
Yeah.
Jason.
I like what Coach Prime said. I'm not putting you on the other side of the ball unless you're dominant on one. You got to be dominant on one before I'll put you on the other side of the ball. He's dominant on both.
Yeah, he is.
And Shedeur should have been he should have been talked about in the Heisman last year. He didn't because he was at Jackson
Because he
State.
was at Jackson State.
He will this year. So and
Oh,
then his
without a
other
doubt.
son Shiloh
Without a doubt.
led the team in tackles on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
So it's a fun deal. I think big picture with Coach Prime is he's going to have to just it's not easy to run a clean program because there's so many things that are out of your control that are under you, where if you do something does something wrong, you're almost culpable because you're the head of the program.
Coach, right.
And so we did a story last week, Pat, with Arizona football and Jed Fish and gambling, and how he's doing so much to make sure none of his players are involved in a gambling scandal, like what happened in Iowa State.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, Fish has a black mark on him if this were to happen, right? And he didn't do anything wrong. And I think that's really the challenge of every of all these coaches now, is so many different things can go wrong and blow up. And that's one thing about Fish is we're in year 3 now. It's been a clean program. It really has. Obviously, you look, a couple programs before, Rich Rod had problems at the end, and then there was discussion of some personal issues that Kevin Sumlin was having at the end of his tenure. Jed Fish has just been a clean program so far, and I think that's going to be the big picture, the challenge of Coach Prime and any coach, is not to have any scandals.
Yeah, and it's becoming more difficult to have that program, with all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, because you've added, the transfer portal. While it's kind of a free for all in the NIL, it's not totally a free for all. And I think that eventually they're going to clamp down and put some rules on the NIL. So you're going to have to keep an eye on that as well. Real quick, Jason, I want to point this out. You're talking about Colorado. We're talking about the Arizona Wildcats and this season. Think about this. We're 1 week into the college football season, about to go to week 2. There are 6 Pac-12 teams ranked in the top 25 right now. And it's unfortunate. Here I am going to, feel.
I think they're 13-0.
What's that? Yeah, they're nobody's lost yet. 13-0.
Who's got 2 wins though? Who's got 2 wins?
USC has 2 wins. They've already played 2 games.
Okay.
And you got USC 6, Washington 8, Utah 12, Oregon 13, Oregon State 16, and Colorado 22. And it's great for the conference. It's a shame
bittersweet
in the final season. Yeah, very bittersweet.
It's bittersweet. Somebody made a funny to that point, Pat. Somebody made a funny comment on Twitter, and the person said, "Okay, so now these teams have left the Pac-12 and gotten big money elsewhere. Why couldn't they have gotten big money in the Pac-12?" And I think that really though has to do with USC and UCLA leaving. I think if you wanted to point to where this really went wrong, it was that. And people are pointing to Texas and Oklahoma. But for the Pac-12, it was USC leaving and UCLA leaving, and no clear second team to go in with San Diego State. I think. Yep.
Well, I think that was part of it. And also a lot of it was timing. Once they made that announcement that USC and UCLA were leaving, when those 2 schools made that announcement, there was not much going right for ESPN and Fox when it came to new TV deals. The Big 12 jumped ahead of them, got their deal done, and there was just no money left in that pool. And that's what it came down to.
I don't want to go. I don't know. We're not going to go into this too deep here, Pat. I see this whole thing getting shaken up again in a few years.
It might. It very well might.
Yeah.
How can we continue with now a couple of California schools and SMU joining the ACC? That just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. How are USC and UCLA, as you pointed out, joining the Big Ten and all that travel? And there's the scenario for Arizona moving with Arizona State moving into the Big 12 is it's not really going to make that much difference travel wise. Maybe they thought a half hour on some of the charters, things like that. But I think we're going to miss this regionality, and that's where we're going to see maybe in a few years people are going to cry out for it again, and maybe they'll bring some of them back to a West Coast conference. I don't know.
All right. Looking forward to seeing Arizona play Mississippi State next week. Of course, the Colorado-Nebraska game. Excited for the NFL. We didn't get to that today, but Aaron Rodgers with the Jets is the big story. We
Yep.
talked about captains. They're making Kyler Murray a captain, even though he's going to miss at least the first 4 games. Their quarterback situation has to work out because they got rid of a somewhat of a sure thing in Colt McCoy.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens with Hobbs. Is Hobbs going to start? I got to double check that. The Cardinals, making a quarterback change late in the preseason, get rid of Colt McCoy. We'll see about that.
I got some thoughts about Kyler Murray and captainship. I don't understand when teams do that because they're desperate and they're trying to appease players. They appeased him with the gigantic contract that was a mistake, and now they're just compounding it. And we all know they want to finish last. They want to get the number 1 draft pick. And they want to get another quarterback. So I don't know. It's infuriating if you even like the Cardinals just a little bit. You got to be disappointed how things are.
I'm going to be rooting for the Jets this year.
Well, you're a Jersey guy.
I'm hoping to see that situation. I'm more of a Giants fan, but
I know you.
It's not a situation of you don't like the other team. I'll root for the Jets. There just hasn't been much to root for. And Aaron Rodgers has embraced New York, and I love the way he's handling himself and everything. He's doing a terrific job and praising everybody. And I think that's got a chance to the defense is fantastic. The offensive line's got to keep him healthy.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The defense is tremendous with the Jets. And you're right. The O-line has to protect him. If they can do that, they'll have a chance.
That's right. All right. This has been the Huddle for Tuesday, September 5th, I believe. And it's September. It doesn't feel like September here in Arizona.
Not yet.
We got enough tough 7 to 10 days ahead here, but maybe we've got some relief at the end of it. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle. Thanks everybody for watching and viewing live and OTT delay or whatever it is. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday.